So how we are going to learn about Flex today is that we are going to be building a simple hero page with a navbar, and we are going to learn as much as we can about using display Flex. We are going to talk about align items. We are going to talk about justify content. And these terms are probably not they are new to some people, and they are something that you've heard before or many times. But we are going to be learning about that. So let's talk and more into code. Now I have two tabs beside me here. I've prepared a template, and this template just has a HTML file that is empty with just a boilerplate, and a CSS file that is also empty but is linked to the HTML already. And I have my content here. So the first thing that we are going to be doing to use or learn about Flex is the navbar. So we are going to create a navbar. This is our body tag, and for SEO purposes, we use the header tag. So we have our header, and to probably mention it now before we go further. To use Flex, you need to know how to structure your code. You don't just slap in divs or slap in H1, UL, whatever. You don't just like put the tags the way you want. You need to first of all think about how the structure will be in your head. Are these two tags supposed to be spaced? Which is supposed to go where? How is it supposed to look? How is it supposed to look? Once you think about that before you structure code, then CSS will be a whole lot more easier for you. You don't have to use absolute positioning, or generally CSS will be less stressful if you structure your code well. So we have our header, and then we have our main for the main content, which we're not going to be using now. But then the header. Inside this header now, we are going to have a logo, which is not exactly a link. So we'll just use each one for the logo, and then say logo. And then for the items in the nav bar, we are going to use the nav tag. And then let's just say we have about three links. Three links. So the first link should be probably, let's call it features. All right, we'll call the first link features. We'll call the second link um, benefits. Let's just say we are building a hero page or a landing page for a tool, and then integrations. Okay, so as you can see, we now have a navbar, a very basic navbar with a logo and features and benefits. Let's quickly grab a cool font for so fonts.google.com. Okay, let's see. You know what? Let's stick with Nonito. Let's stick with Nonito. So we're just going to select like a regular and probably a bold with 700. And then I have some here. Okay, I don't. So we are going to use the HTML version because I just prefer that for no reason in particular. And then we are going to come back here to our CSS. All right. So now we are moving to CSS. Let's practice Flex now. So we'll come to CSS here and target our header tag. First of all, the entire body. Let's apply the font to the entire body. So say font family, we say Unito, and probably center. So as you can see, the font has been applied. And this is where Flex comes in. So we have two items in our header. From here to here is our header. Why do I say we have two items? This is one. And then since these three links are nested inside this nav, it makes it two. So we have the logo and we have the nav bar, our H1 and our nav. Now we are going to use Flex on this header to see what it can do for us. So in our header, for our header styling, we are going to use display of Flex. So as you can see, we've applied header Flex display flex the header. This was how it was before we got sidetracked. So by default, everything on the page, like everything on the HTML page, is display of block, which just means that every single thing you add is going to take up the entire space of the web page. Like this logo now is taken up from here to here. That's why these navs just came under. So unless you are using an inline element like the 8 tags, everything is just going to like go under. The body the body's display is blocked by default. So now we are going to alter this display now. We're going to make it flex. So once we add display flex, you see that everything has gone to the next line. This logo now is just occupying the particular width of what it's supposed to be, and then the next items in the list are going there. That's display flex. But then there is another feature of display flex called align items and justify. Now, before we go to that, there are two types of display flex. There's the column display and there's the row display. So if we were to change this display now to column, we would say flex direction. By default, yeah, flex displays are always rows. That's why there is logo here and then the features just immediately came beside it. Then if we were to alter that, we could change the direction to column. And you see like to go under it. And we can also change the direction to column reverse so that this one that was below it goes under, like it just changes the order of the elements. If you remember in our HTML file, the logo came first and then the links. But then we can alter that using CSS Flex. We can make the links come first and then the logos come last. Just changing the order. That's for column reverse. But we are not reversing the order now. And we're also not using column. So since it's row by default, we are not using flex. The next thing we're going to try to do now is to center these things in the middle. You know, this features and benefits is up. You want it to be in the middle here. And that's where align items to specify content. So a particular div or a particular piece of content is um horizontal, like the display is row. Then justify content. Wait, it would be better if I demonstrate this. Did you see what just happened? This particular header spans the entire width from here to here. So if you add justified content to the header, it just horizontally centers everything to the middle of this header. But that's because it's a row display. If we give this header a height, probably height of 100 pixels, and let's make the background black so you can actually see what we're doing. We change that in a minute. And then text white. Make the color white. Yeah, well, it works. It works. So this justify content now, it has centered everything to the middle horizontally. If you wanted to center it vertically here, like from here to here, we would use something called align items here. Align items center. So as you can see now, it has centered everything within the center of the container. The space here is equal to the space here. Now, it's not just center that is the part of the values that you can use for align items. Same thing with justify content too. So what if you wanted space between these items? Like you wanted space between the logo and the navs. You use something called space between. So what that does is basically spreading the two items in your header to the extreme ends of the container. So whatever item is at the beginning goes first, and then whatever item is at the end goes last. Now, this is where what I talked about at the beginning comes in. This is where you understand why you have to structure your code well. If I didn't like group all these things now, say I remove this nav and then the only thing in my header is just the H1s and the links like that. You will see that it has altered how it's looking because now it's just spacing between everything there. And now you have to add extra styling to make it look like what you want. But then we have our groups. We've put it in our groups. And so we have a better looking page. There's also another value of justify content called space around. Now the thing with space around is that it gives it equal spaces between the objects. So if you notice, the space here is equal to the space here, halfway. And then it also equals to the space here, equal to the space here. It's confusing, but I think you can catch on. The space between this content now, if you see, is equally divided here. And so this half is for the logo, and then this half is for the features, benefit, integration. The space here is equal to the space here, is equal to the space here, equal to the space here. That's what space around does. It gives the exact amount of space between each particular element. There's one last value that space has, which is space evenly. And what this one does is to give the same, like to divide the remaining space accordingly or equally among the content of the page. So if you notice now, when it was spaced around, the amount of space between was not equal to the one at the side. This has been masked. Now space evenly, you see that okay, the space here is equal to the space here, equal to the space here. It's giving even equal spaces to each and every item or each and every grouped item in the header. I hope that catches on. For this our demo, using space between because we are trying to make like a hero. We are trying to make a hero with like spaced out. Since we can't just leave our link floating here, we need it to be centered here, right? So we are going to use align items center. This space between space around and space evenly, they also work for align items. So you can try it out at one time. You can test some of them here. Space. Actually, it won't work because we only have one item horizontally. You can test out at one time, but we have like one item horizontally, so just space center will work because we have just one horizontal item. But anyway, space center, and we are going to remove our height because we don't need this high navbar in our page. So this is what we're working in. So now we have I'm losing the background actually. It does not look exactly good. So now we have a logo, we have um spaced out links. Next we are going to try to do is just to make this header look a little bit better. So we are going to slap on a border bottom, 2 pixels, solid, and CCC. Yeah, that looks good. And then normally by default, you're probably taking this in your classes, but by default, there is this space around the web page. So sometimes when you might be making your calculations or you might be styling, you might be seeing this weird white space. It's by default. So if you want to remove that, you can just like target, use this asterisk. This asterisk target on the page, and then just say margin 0, and that removes all the default space you have. So the next thing we are going to do to make this logo look better, we'll just add some padding. So we'll say for the top and the bottom, we want an 8 pixels padding. Is that good? Nah, it's not. 12 and 24 pixels, maybe. Actually, 12 pixels is not 40. Let's make it 20. Yep, it looks a little bit better now. So this is what we have. We have a logo and we have spaced out links. Let's actually try to make these things look better. So we are going to target the only link that we have. I'm not using classes because it's a hero page and we have just one of those items. Like we have just one header, just one nav, just one link, or just links that is the same place. So access aren't really necessary here. But if you have like more than one link, you would want to use that. So we're just going to use a text color of black, and then text decoration. Do we need that? No, actually, let's keep that. And then a margin right, right, pixels. Actually, you know what? 12. Yeah, that looks good. So now we've made like a nav bar. We've been able to like space out the nav bars that we have. We use Flex to make it to change the layout into rows. We use to justify content to put space between the links that we have, and then we've used align content to center uh content vertically, right? So one thing you should remember is as far as flex, like the flex direction of your items are rows. Justify content will always be horizontal, will always work horizontally, and align items will work vertically. But once you change that flex direction, this is something that you will learn when you have started working with flex. Once you change that flex direction to column, justify content to start working vertically, and then align content to start working horizontally. If you practice it, you know what I mean. But then we work with justify, align, and yeah, justify content and align items. And two things: display flex, justify content, and align items. These are this is these three. These are the most important things you need when working with flex, because as we go on to work on the hero now, those are the main things that we'll be using: justify content center, align content, and all that. But let's do that the hero. I think we have about 10 more minutes, about 10 more minutes. So let's build the hero. We are going to make a div for our text content, and then we are going to make another div for our image. All right. So now we have our text content and our image content. Here, I'm not quite sure what content to use. So we are just going to slap lorem ipsum. Lorem ipsum. And then a paragraph. That works, right? Yes, that works. Probably another paragraph. Yep. Okay. Then we can add a random image. I found where to add random images. So we're just going to add a square image here. So we are going to come to our HTML page and then use the image tag and put this in. This should work. It should work. Not used this before. Okay, yes, we have the image. So now we have an image, we have text, and we have this. How do we make it look good with Flex? Let's work on that. So the first thing we are going to do is like to make it look good, right? So we are going to target our main. We're going to add the same pattern that we added to the nav bars, just so that we have like something uniform here. If you can see now, it looks better to the eye already. So we have that for the main, and because we are creating a hero page and we want to make the height only occupy the screen, we are going to use specific height now, and we're going to use something called vh. So we're just going to say like 75 vh, and what vh does is basically occupy 75% of the vertical height. No, I think it's viewport, sorry, viewport height. So if you add a background color, you know how much that is. Let's add a background color, black. So as you can see, this is what 75 percent of the viewport height is. If we change this to 40, you see how much it occupies. That's there. But we are using 75 and we are not using a background color because, well, so we have this. Now let's try to style the image. So we are going to target our image tag and we're going to put width. Since we are going for something responsive, we are going to try to use percentages. So we'll say 85% of the width. And then one thing we are going to do here is to add a margin of auto. So it centers like in the middle of the page. And then the div of the image, we should add a class to that. Class, sorry, image div. Let's name that image div. Oh, every time it reloads, it brings a new image. That's fine. What did I name that? Image div. Okay. Dot image div. I'm going to use a width of 100% so that we can center it. Sorry, so we can center the image. The image is not want to center, sha. That's what they usually say about devs that we usually spend time trying to center. The image does not want to center. You will dump it if it does not. We should add a max width to this image though, so it does not. Okay. But anyway, let's leave the image not centering and focus on flex. So one thing we are going to try to do now is we have our main. How do we make this look good? We're working with desktop now. What we're going to do is we're going to use display of flex, right? So on our main, we're going to say display flex, and we'll see what that does. It puts the text on one end that basically just changes the layout as I've explained before. And since we have a fixed height, what I'm going to do here now is to align it vertically. And to align it vertically, we're going to use align items center. Center. Okay, so you can see it goes down. If we were to, by default, it's aligned to the top. So you don't actually need to use flex top. If you wanted to align it at the bottom, you would use flex end. And then you would see it to go to the end of the page or the end of the specified height you put. But we don't want it going to the end. We want it staying in the middle. So we are just going to use center. Good. So um we don't need to justify or center anything horizontally because well it is centered already. The next thing we are going to try to do now is to make it change layout on mobile. That's one thing with flex. With flex you can easily manipulate layout and all. So responsiveness, I'm not sure you guys have created this, but we are going to try clear screen. So for responsive, we should probably fix the images first. This text paragraph. Let's fix the paragraph before we go into it. Let's give it 5% of the containers width. Yep, looks better. And probably margin. Um, 24 pixels at the top, 0 pixels by the side. Yep, that looks good. Yeah, we fixed the paragraphs now. So now let's change the layout of this particular object in CSS or using responsiveness. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to specify the width that we are targeting, and we are targeting a minimum width of phone sizes. I think with phone sizes are about 480 pixels. I think 400 to 480 pixels. Yeah, I think so. So now this particular responsive row, if it is less than 480 pixels, watch what happens. So we know currently I said main. Currently our main display flex it's row. Our flex direction is row. But we are going to change our flex direction now to column. So if you notice, yeah, when it's did I do something? Screen and yep, I think that's good. So we are going to add like display flex. Actually, since we are working with a bigger screen here, let's make this max. I think I need to clarify something. We'll probably fix this later. But what I'm trying to explain is if you want to change the layout, we'll comment this out for now. If you wanted to change the layout of the main page, we would use something like the first direction of column. So if you notice, this is what we're trying to achieve on mobile. Here, since the mobile page is not wide enough, we would want to use a text direction of column, actually column reverse, because that's how it looks like on most websites or mobile pages. So the image, why is it off? Whatever. Sha, so on mobile screens, if we wanted to make something responsive and we wanted to change the layout, wanted to change the layout of a particular page, we could use flex direction. Flex direction basically changes how and which particular item comes first. So if we previously have a row layout and wanted to change it to a column, we use flex direction column. And then if we wanted to change the order of the particular way that we structured the items, for example, if I have this image div here and I have this text content here and I wanted this image div to come up and I wanted the text content to come last, I would just change the, the direction and put reverse. What does that changing of order is reverse. So we just change it to column reverse and yep.